Hello and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill and I'm here with Julie. And this week, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we're going to talk about books that are set in Ireland or written by Irish authors.
Okay, I will kick it off with my first pick. It is The Country Girls, 3 novels and an epilogue by Edna O'Brien. So Kate Brady and Bridget Baba Brennan are 2 ambitious Irish country girls in this story, and they're in search of life. Romantic Kate seeks love, while pragmatic Baba will take whatever she can get. Their story begins in a small repressive village in the west of Ireland in the years following World War II. Together they set out to conquer Dublin and the world. Under the big city's bright lights, they spin their lives into a whirl of comic and touching misadventures, wild flirtations, and reckless passions. But love changes everything for them, and as their lives take unexpected and separate turns, Baba and Kate must ultimately learn to go it alone. This book is a beautiful portrait of the pain and joy of youth, the ruin of a marriage gone wrong, and the ache of lost friendship and love. This trilogy of Edna O'Brien's remarkable early novels is more than just an indication of the stunning and masterly writer that she has become. The book is described as both painful and hilarious and remains as one of the major accomplishments of this author's career. Her first novel, The Country Girls, which is part of this book, was written in just 3 weeks in 1958 and saw her widely condemned in her native Ireland and, worse, damaged her relationship with her mother. Today, Edna O'Brien has been dubbed Ireland's greatest living writer. She just turned 90 this past December.
Wow. O'Brien is certainly a
There's your first Irish name.
My first choice is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. You might recognize this author. I had featured her book Room when we did a movie to book thing. So this one is set in Irish Midlands in 1859. An English nurse, Lib Wright, is summoned to a tiny village to observe what some are claiming is a medical anomaly or a miracle. A girl is said to have survived without food for months. Tourists have flocked to the cabin of 11-year-old Anna O'Donnell, and a journalist has come down to cover the sensation. The Wonder is a tale of 2 strangers who transform each other's lives, a psychological thriller, and a story of love pitted against evil. Emma Donoghue, the author, is an Irish-Canadian playwright. She was born in Dublin, Ireland, and she's the youngest of 8 and now lives in Canada with her family. So, I wonder.
My second pick is Normal People by Sally Rooney, published in 2018. At school, Connell and Mary Ann pretend not to know each other. He's popular and well-adjusted, star of the soccer team, while she is lonely, proud, and intensely private. But when Connell comes to pick his mother up from her housekeeping job at Mary Ann's house, a strange and indelible connection grows between the 2 teenagers, one they are determined to conceal. A year later, they're both studying at Trinity College, which is in Dublin. Mary Ann has found her feet in a new social world, while Connell hangs at the sidelines, shy and uncertain. Throughout their years at Trinity College, they circle one another, straying toward other people and possibilities, but always magnetically, irresistibly drawn back together. Then, as she veers into self-destruction and he begins to search for meaning elsewhere, they each must confront how far they are willing to go to save the other. Sally Rooney brings her brilliant psychological acuity and perfectly spare prose to a story that explores the subtleties of class, the electricity of your first love, and the complex entanglements of family and friendship. The book was turned into a Hulu series last year and received quite a bit of critical acclaim. So if you want a story about kids taking classes at Trinity College in Dublin, Normal People by Sally Rooney.
That's come up on a lot of lists. I'm
Yeah,
glad we
that
finally
does.
have it. So, yes. Could it fit our TV one? So my next one is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. In this book, Cyril Avery is not a real Avery, or at least that's what his adoptive parents tell him, and he never will be. But if he isn't a real Avery, then who is he? Born out of wedlock to a teenage girl cast out from her rural Irish community and adopted by a well-to-do, if eccentric Dublin couple via the intervention of a hunchbacked redemptorist nun,
Oh my.
Cyril is adrift in the world, anchored only tenuously by his heartfelt friendship with the infinitely more glamorous and dangerous Julian Woodbead. At the mercy of fortune and coincidence, he will spend a lifetime coming to know himself where he came from, and over his 70 years and 10, will struggle to discover an identity, a home, a country, and so much more. In this, Boyne's most transcendent work of date, we are shown the story of Ireland from the 1940s until today through the eyes of an ordinary man. So that's kind of fun. John Boyne is an Irish novelist who was born in Dublin, Ireland. He is the author of 10 novels for adults and 5 for young readers, as well as a collection of short stories. The book you might be most familiar with that's written by him is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
And my third pick for today is The Spinning Heart by Donal Ryan, published in 2012. This takes place in the aftermath of Ireland's financial collapse, and dangerous tensions surface in an Irish town. As violence flares, the characters face a battle between public persona and inner desires. Through a course of 21 unique voices, each struggling to tell their own kind of truth, a single authentic tale unfolds. The Spinning Heart speaks for contemporary Ireland like no other novel. It's wry, vulnerable, all too human, and it captures the language and spirit of rural Ireland, and with uncanny perception articulates the words and thoughts of the generation. Technically daring and evocative of Patrick McCabe and J.M. Zinge, this novel of small-town life, it's witty, it's dark, and it's sweetly poignant. The author made his name with this debut novel, actually, which won the Guardian First Book Award in 2013, and it was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. 2 other novels and a short story collection quickly followed, set around the same fictional village, a composite of various places in Limerick and Tipperary. Ranging from the boom years of the Celtic Tiger to the experience of Irish travelers, they dug deep into the psyche of Irish communities, with marginal voices summoning the intensity of small-town loves and hates to uncover a complicated history and their uncertain present. So I thought this one sounded interesting, with all the different voices sharing their stories. So.
Yeah. And other places besides Dublin.
Yeah.
Limerick, I forgot about that one. Next one is The Library at the Edge of the World by Felicity Hayes McCoy. This has the greatest title in the world. It's a warm, feel-good novel about the importance of finding a place where you belong. It's perfect for fans of Maeve Binchy, who I believe is also an Irish author. Local librarian Hannah Casey is wondering where it all went wrong. Driving her mobile library van through Finfern's farms and villages, she tries not to think of the sophisticated London life she abandoned when she left her cheating husband, or that she's now stuck in her crotchety mom's spare bedroom in the small Irish town where she grew up. With her daughter Jazz traveling the world and her relationship with her mother growing increasingly fraught, Hannah decides to reclaim her independence. Then, when the threatening closure of her library puts her plans in jeopardy, she finds herself leading a battle to restore her heart and soul of the fragmented community. Will she also find the new love that she's been searching for? This is the first book in the series, the Finferan series, which are set in an imaginary county on the west coast of Ireland. If you like it, the next book is called Summer at the Garden Cafe. That's the second book. The author, Felicity Hayes McCoy, is an Irish writer who was also born in Dublin, Ireland. Let's see. So.
My fourth pick today is a popular series. This is An Irish Country Doctor by Patrick Taylor. In this story, Barry Laverty, MB, can barely find the Northern Ireland village of Ballybucklebow on a map when he first sets out to gain employment there. But he already knows that there is a nowhere he would rather live than in the emerald hills and dales of Northern Ireland. The proud owner of a spanking new medical degree and little else in the world of worldly possessions, Barry jumps at the chance to secure a position as an assistant in a small rural practice. That is, until he meets Dr. Finnegal O'Reilly, the older physician whose motto is to never let the patients get the upper hand, has his own way of doing things. At first, Barry can't decide if O'Reilly is the biggest charlatan he's ever met or the best teacher he could ever hope for. So through Dr. O'Reilly, Barry soon gets to know all of the village's colorful and endearing residents, including a malingering major and his equally hypochondriac wife, an unwed servant girl who refuses to divulge the father of her upcoming baby, a slightly daft old couple unable to marry for lack of a roof, and a host of other eccentric characters who make every day an education for the inexperienced young doctor. This village is a long way from Belfast, and Barry is quick to discover that he still has a lot to learn about the quirks and traditions of country life. But with pluck and compassion and only the slightest touch of blarney, he will find out more about life and love than he ever imagined back in medical school. This book is part of the Irish Country series, which has 16 books in the series, and also includes an Irish Country cookbook, which has 10 short stories paired with more than 140 delicious Irish family recipes. So, very popular series here at the library. Patrick Taylor's Irish Country Doctor.
All right. My next one is P.S. I Love You by Cecilia Ahern. This is also the first book in a series, so if you like it, there is more by this author. Holly couldn't live without her husband Jerry until the day she had to. They were the kind of couple who could finish each other's sentences. Then Jerry succumbs to a terminal illness and dies. 30-year-old Holly is set adrift, unable to pick up the pieces. But Jerry has other plans. 2 months after his death, Holly emerges to retrieve a mysterious package. True to his word, Jerry left her a series of letters to be opened after his death, each signed P.S. I Love You. With the help of the letters her husband left her before he died, and a little nudging from an eccentric assortment of family and friends, Holly learns to laugh, overcome her fears, and discover a world she never knew existed. The second book in this series is called Postscript, which follows Holly 7 years after her husband's death. The author, Cecilia Ahern, is the daughter of Ireland's Prime Minister. She has a degree in journalism and media communications and was on her way to getting a master's when she left school to become a novelist. And she lives in Dublin.
I saw the movie. I never read the book, and now I'm curious about the sequel to the book.
Yeah, 7 years after. That's a good plot for that one.
And my last pick for today is Brooklyn by Colm Tobin, published in 2009. This is kind of a popular book, was a popular movie. Ilis Lacey has come of age in small-town Ireland in the years following World War II. Though skilled at bookkeeping, she cannot find a job in the miserable Irish economy. When an Irish priest from Brooklyn offers to sponsor Ilis in America to live and work in a Brooklyn neighborhood just like Ireland, she decides she must go, leaving her fragile mother and her charismatic sister behind. She finds work in a department store, and when she least expects it, finds love. Tony, a blonde Italian from a big family, slowly wins her over with patient charm. He takes Ilis to Coney Island and Ebbets Field and home to dinner in the 2-room apartment he shares with his brothers and parents. He talks of having children who are Dodgers fans, but just as she begins to fall in love with Tony, devastating news from back home in Ireland threatens the promise of her future. This book won the 2009 Costa Novel Award, was shortlisted for the 2011 International Dublin Literary Award, and also was longlisted for the 2009 Man Booker Prize. In 2012, The Observer named it as one of the 10 best historical novels. It's described as both hauntingly beautiful and heartbreaking. This is the author's 6th novel, and as I mentioned earlier, this was turned into a movie back in 2016 starring Saoirse Ronan. I listened to the audiobook of this one and have seen the movie and found them both very, very moving. So,
Was the movie close to the book?
Yeah, it was. It was.
The movie was good. I saw that.
Yeah.
All right. My last pick is In the Woods by Tana French. This is the first book in a series titled The Dublin Murder Squad. It takes place in Dublin, Ireland, where many of our authors live. As dusk approaches in a small Dublin suburb in the summer of 1984, mothers begin to call their children home, but on this warm evening, 3 children do not return from the dark and silent woods. When the police arrive, they find only one of the children. He is gripping a tree trunk in terror, wearing blood-filled sneakers and unable to recall a single detail of the previous hours. 20 years later, the found boy, Rob Ryan, is a detective on the Dublin Murder Squad and keeps his past a secret. But when a 12-year-old girl is found murdered in the same woods, he and Detective Cassie Maddox, his partner and closest friend, find themselves investigating a case chillingly similar to the previous unsolved mystery. Now with only snippets of long-buried memories to guide him, Ryan has a chance to uncover both the mystery of the case before him and that of his own shadowy past. When this book was published in 2008, critics dubbed it a gorgeously written novel that marks the debut of an astonishing new voice in psychological suspense. Tana French has since written more books that have won awards, and including the Irish Book Award for crime fiction. She lives in Dublin with her family. There are 6 books in the Dublin Murder Squad series. Each appears to have a different character as the main one. The second book is called The Likeness, and it features the guy's partner in this. So
I've read a couple of those, and I haven't read that whole series, but I've
People
read a few
like
of
her.
those. Yeah, I like that. Well, we thank you for watching. When I said I was doing Irish Reads, I actually had 2 other recommendations from family members. My husband recommended The Princes of Ireland by Edward Rutherford. He really liked that book. And my one of my sister-in-laws recommended The Green Road by Anne Enright. So we had a lot of people recommending things for Irish Reads. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope you give you something to think about and read with St. Patty's Day coming up. Thanks for watching. Comment in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
See you next time.
Bye.